Hello everyone. So as you know, Angela and I have been co-leading on this work and will present a comprehensive presentation explaining exactly what's been completed up to this point. So as you know, this work has been ongoing for about 3 years because parking and transport were recognised as the biggest challenges in the Yr Wyddfa and Ogwen areas through consultation, a consultation process as part of launching Cynllun Yr Wyddfa. Commissioning a review into the current situation was an action point of the plan, and therefore we worked with Gwynedd and Conwy councils on writing the brief. So as this was noted in Cynllun Yr Wyddfa, the review focused on Yr Wyddfa and Ogwen areas only, although the vision has a much further reach than the project area itself, and the park will consider expanding the sustainable principles across the entire park whenever relevant. So Martin Higgitt Associates were commissioned to write this review, and the draft was presented to us as the partnership following a further consultation process in the summer of 2020. Now Angela will give a brief overview of the vision presented back in the review.
Diolch, Catrin. Yes, well, as you know, the strategy responds to the problems that we've seen over the years and, of course, what we've experienced very recently as well. And the recommendations are comprehensive and far-reaching, and it's a holistic strategy which looks forward to a future without cars that uses zero carbon methods to get around. Of course, this means a significant mindset shift for all of us. On the next slide, please, Catrin. The recommendations, as you well know by now, outline a sustainable tourism model where the area will be strongly marketed based on the benefits of sustainable tourism. And we know that all of you have seen this before, so we won't go over this in detail. But in the long term, of course, it aims to significantly reduce parking in the inner area, apart from special permits or by pre-booking. And of course, it looks to implement a high-quality zero-carbon shuttle bus service throughout the area, where visitors will arrive by public transport or park at gateway sites. And of course, this will require a new funding and governance model. There are, of course, many strategies for the area, and on the next slide, it starts to outline some of those, many benefits rather for the area rather than strategies, particularly for people who live and work here full time. And of course, the most obvious of these would be the improvements to the environment. And here are some examples of the benefits that we hope to see. On behalf of the economy, on the next slide, there are also opportunities such as these, and these of course fit in with the vision on Cynllun Yr Wyddfa, Cynllun Yr Yrru, the regeneration plans of the local authorities in the area, and of course the destination management organisations and plans of the two councils, and of course with the policies emanating from Welsh Government at the moment. And then on the next slide, it just outlines the changes, which are a really fantastic opportunity for influencing cultural changes in the area around how we move in this area, and of course the way the visitors see and respect Yr Yrru. So it provides us with a golden opportunity to rebrand and make sure that our special qualities around the Welsh language and of course the culture in this area are explained in a new and innovative way. So all of this fits under the sustainable tourism principles that we're currently developing in conjunction with Cyngor Gwynedd, and in line with, of course, what local people are telling us. And we as authorities, as you know, already have embarked on an ambassador scheme, but this strategy gives everyone who comes into contact with visitors the opportunity to be part of the vision and be trained to provide holistic information. We do see lots of other important benefits, which are on the next slide, which might not necessarily fit under a heading, but which are really exciting. And of course, the reason that we put this up is to underline that whilst this is a strategy for managing visitors more effectively, it is first and foremost meant to benefit people who live and work here, and is based on a method of planning with the communities in the area. So I'll hand back to you now, Catrin, for updating where we are at the moment.
Thanks, Angela. Yes, so since the summer of 2020, both of us have been presenting to various audiences from the local communities to the government, tourism sector and other national parks across the UK as well. And some of these audiences are seen here on this slide. I think it's also important to note here as well that there was much support in principle to the vision and strategy in all the presentations that we did with every group. Yeah, we received support for 4 projects that were recognised by the consultants in Martin's team, which matched Transport for Wales's funding requirements as well. And we were very grateful for the input of our core partners with regards to parking and transport, so Cyngor Gwynedd and Conwy, to these projects. So first of all, yeah, we received in 2020 we received about £500,000 of an investment of about half a million. And the first project is the community master planning consultation. So why this was done, a key element of the vision, as you all know from Martin's review, is that the voice of the communities is heard, and that they are heavily involved in shaping how the strategy looks on the ground in their communities. So to this end, one of the recommendations was to consult with the communities from the start in an ongoing master planning process. So we have carried out the consultation, and I'll go into a bit more detail about this shortly. Second was the pre-booking in Pen y Pass, and this was done also as a recommendation in the review, and we just had a golden opportunity really to trial this during COVID. We trialled the original system during the summer of 2020 over a few weekends using Eventbrite, following the closure of Pen y Pass because of the dangerous scenes seen there. Then by teaming up with Just Park and with support from Transport for Wales, a more long-term system was put in place. This contract comes to an end on the 8th of November, and we'll be reviewing how it's been soon. However, I can say that the staff at Pen y Pass absolutely love this system, and they're always asking why we haven't done it sooner, really. So yeah, the feedback from them and from users has been fantastic. A number of organisations also have been in touch, wanting to go down the same route as us. So yeah, third is the cycling and walking proposals and bike hiring scheme. So this project is also linked to the master planning work and the recommendation to discuss with communities about their hopes and aspirations right from the beginning. So we were keen for the residents to tell us how they wanted to move around in the area in future and to travel, and to give them a chance to influence future decisions. So this was a desk study which included a consultation with partners, with yourselves, and considered the results of the master planning workshops. And last from me, this work through the public transport study, this work looked at the bus network and routes in the area, timetables and links with trains. This work was completed by Mott MacDonald, and we're happy again to say that both councils contributed heavily to this work and to the other project, as I mentioned. And it's important here to note as well that Transport for Wales make their investing decisions based on these reports. Therefore, it was really essential that we had the council's input into this work. And also the rebrand of the Sherpa, and to have another look at the timetables and to really improve the timetables for 2022. That should be at the bottom of the slide there. It's just an error there, it should be 2022. So that should be in place, the improvements by Easter next year. Over to you, Angela.
Yeah, and then just for me to update on this financial year, so we've had £1 million investment, or has been earmarked then by Transport for Wales for carrying some of these projects on into this financial year. So the first one is be awarding a tender to establish a barrier system for Pen y Pass to make sure that the pre-booking system works correctly and works in the long term. So we're currently preparing a planning application for this, which includes a road safety audit, and we're hoping that the barrier system will be actually built and established during this winter, the winter months. The next project is the monitoring system, the live monitoring system, and smart parking have been commissioned by Transport for Wales to install ground sensors in all of our car parks around Yr Wyddfa and in the lay-bys that belong to us, which was also offered to Gwynedd Council, but they decided not to take that up at this time. But the sensors are going to provide live information for numbers in the car parks, and basically they'll give the information, as it happens, which will show initially on an app and then on our website, but in the medium to long term and with the cooperation of local councils and highways authorities on actually signs in the area to show what the capacity in the car parks are. This is to help, first of all, give us and all of us more robust data on what is actually happening in and around the area, but also to encourage people to make smarter decisions instead of driving around looking for a parking space. Again, this work is going to be done over the autumn and winter this year. Then also on the next slide, the company McDonald, who carried out the public transport study that Katrin has already mentioned, they've moved on to looking at a parking management study for the area. It was one of the essential things that Martin and the team highlighted as a really important next step in the strategy. But due to the developments around the North Wales Metro and obviously feeding into the work that Transport for Wales are doing, they're looking now to expand parking locations to connect to those public transport offers. So obviously there's a lot of work going on in making the public transport offer more robust, and then this report is looking at strengthening that offer. So it looks to connect people to the northern side of the park to the public transport facilities available there. So this is being done at the moment, and the results of this report are going to be presented to us and to Cyngor Gwynedd and to Cyngor Conwy over the next few months for us to see how this all links in together. Then also the project for cycling and walking routes is being progressed, and here the strategic plan is being produced, and this is needed, of course, to include all of the partners with the responsibility for any multi-purpose routes in the area. So that's the focus. The first step really in this strategy is to get this kind of strategic plan in place. And also there's some scoping work going on in the Ogwen and Betws areas based on the consultations that they've done with us, all of us as partners, and of course which happened during the community consultations earlier in the year. So each of the authorities and anybody with responsibilities for those areas have fed into the strategy and will continue to do so. They've also invested in a new pilot bus service that runs from Bangor to Corwen and back every 2 hours, and that's for a year. This definitely helped towards reducing the pressure on parking in Ogwen this summer, but at the moment it's quite clear that mostly local people are using this service and not visitors. And as Katrin already mentioned, the Snowdon Sherpa rebranding project is underway, and they are also looking at several improvements to the network that need to be made over the coming years to make it a more robust public transport offer in this area. And back to you, Katrin, for the results of the consultation, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. So yeah, as I mentioned, we received support from Transport for Wales to hold consultation with the 4 proposed gateway communities. 2 communications companies from Transport for Wales' framework were used, Jacobs and Grasshopper, and a report was produced following the consultation, and I'm happy to say that you've all received a copy of that report. So if you've got any questions after reading that, please send them our way. So yeah, consulting online was challenging and a lot was learned from the experience, to be honest. We failed really to get a true representation of some of the local communities, with some joining the workshops from outside the area. So because of this, we decided to do some more consulting in Betws y Coed and in Beddgelert as well. But that's an outline there on the slide of the initial consultation that was done by Jacobs and Grasshopper. So Beddgelert, yeah, so these slides now are about the workshops in particular. So Beddgelert was attended by 30 people. Most were supportive of the strategy, with 63% in support. And some of these themes are quite common in all 4 communities, really, and I'll just go through some of them. There is a need for more parking spaces, prioritising residents. Any parking developments would need to be of walking distance to the village. Need to look at a new parking site, not create more. Integrated better links with destinations such as Bangor. Parking needs to be enforced better. Visitors are looking, some visitors are just looking for somewhere to park for free. Possible locations to look at could be Caerdy and Trallyn for development of additional parking, and that's something that we have looked at and then I'll mention in a bit. Betws y Coed. So Betws y Coed, again, quite supportive of the strategy in principle and of the sustainable tourism model. People felt that something needed to be done and that the parking and transport challenges were quite big in the area. However, the lack of possible locations is a challenge in Betws y Coed. Speed restrictions are needed. Betws y Coed is extremely busy and it's an attraction within its own right, really. Lack of short stay parking at present for local people. There's a need for toilets, better bus service needed, and potential to ruin the village if something wasn't done properly and wasn't done with the blessing of the community. So Llanberis, 82% supported the sustainable tourism model in Llanberis. Some of the themes raised there, similar again, bus service needs to improve, prices should not rise for local people due to problems arising from visitors. Buses need to be suitable for various equipment, people bringing their bikes into the national park, cycling equipment and climbing and so on. Access needs to be, there needs to be access to some areas after work and at night. Ensure disabled access is of high standard. There was a clear frustration as well in many of the communities and the feeling that nothing will ever get done. And that we've been talking about the challenges for a while now. So I think, there's clear frustration in some of these communities. Again, we had some ideas from the attendees about possible locations, and a lot of the residents had a lot of great ideas on locations and how to shape the vision in the area. So that was really positive. Again, there's some more themes there on that slide for Llanberis. And we'll send you out a copy of the slides as well with this presentation. And then Bethesda, again, 91 supportive of the vision and of the sustainable tourism model. And there was a clear awareness in Bethesda and aspirations for a sustainable green future. And they wanted to be involved, and they wanted us to involve community enterprises in any developments. Businesses were keen to attract more tourism, but obviously on their own terms. Again, we discussed the ideas of using local energy and the possibilities of developing Pant Draeniog, and I'll mention that in a bit as well. Better connections from Bangor, and buses and trains need to link up better. So we did, as I mentioned, we did consult further in Bedd Gelert and Betws y Coed. So 52 individuals registered for the Bedd Gelert workshop, but only 30 attended, and 14 of whom lived outside the community of Bedd Gelert. And there was a similar story in Betws y Coed as well. So in Bedd Gelert, we did a drop-off. So we posted letters into every letterbox, and including a questionnaire for people to fill in. So we'd had some more responses from that. And in Betws y Coed, we did drop-in sessions. We did 3 sessions in Betws y Coed at different times of the week and day. So they were really well attended as well, and we had really good discussions with the community. So after those further consultation events, we feel like we really we understand now the aspirations of those communities a bit better. So so following those consultations, as I mentioned, we have worked with Arloesi Gwynedd Wledig and Gwynedd Council on a brief for scoping the suitability of developing Pant Draeniog. This is all within the vision presented by Martin and his team, and also we've done some scoping. We commissioned a report to scope Caerdy and Trallin in Bedd Gelert, with Caerdy seen as favourable locations and fitting into the long-term vision. So we will go back to the communities now in the autumn and present these findings to them, and also explain next steps. Diolch, Angela.
Diolch, Catrin. And yeah, just to one of the other projects we're working on is this one, which is to do with visitor comms, and not just visitor comms, but communication for anybody really who's moving around the area. And this will be an absolutely essential part of the whole project. So we're working with Spark at the moment and a company called Cap Ventus and Arloesi Gwynedd Wledig to understand what kind of systems actually needed to do this in a really innovative and inspiring way. So this is something totally brand new, and it's been based on real-time data and how the rebranding that I mentioned earlier can take place in a really comprehensive way that brings benefit to local companies, businesses and organisations and communities. So all of this will feed into what will be a kind of visitor comms output. So we're waiting to have the results of that and kind of look at where we need to start developing those ideas further. And we introduced this project to Lee Waters a few weeks ago in Spark when he was visiting here, who's the Deputy Minister for Climate Change for Welsh Government at the moment, and he was very supportive of this work. So I think that's it. I think on the next slide we're looking at next steps. Yes, so this is where we're at the moment. We've mentioned quite a few of these next steps already. The first and most important being for Catrin and I to get back to the communities as soon as possible, really, and to continue the work there of developing ideas with the gateway communities. We mentioned about the projects that are ongoing from Transport for Wales and the work that we're anticipating coming up over the next few months and what we still are working on. And of course, we definitely need to review what's happened in some of the areas where we felt most pressure from parking and transport this summer just gone, which is Pen y Pass, Ogwen and Nant Gwynant. And then also working at the moment with Transport for Wales to put together a governance map. So this is based on a request by some of the partners so that we are all clear about where decisions are being made in this project and in this strategy. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. I hope that you'd agree that Catrin and I have been working hard over the last year and a half, and we've been trying to carry on the momentum of this strategy to ensure that some of these projects are taken off the ground and hopefully are close to being delivered by now, some of these at least initial projects. So yeah, we hope that you are happy with this, and we look forward to discussing this further with you in the workshop. Diolch yn fawr iawn.